So guys, let's dive into recovery. Not just, hey, physical recovery like sleep and nutrition and, active recovery too, walking, but I think emotional and mental recovery as well. Mark, you were just spilling a lot of golden nuggets, brother. And now that we're back on recording this, why don't you kind of talk a little bit about, your tools for the mental and the physical, recovery that helped you out with your mindset, as you kind of mentioned about your transformation.
Yeah, it was definitely a big part of my transformation. I learned a lot in that process about myself and about ways to combat some of the things that, everyone goes through. Everyone, sometimes feels depressed or anxious or nervous, and those things will kind of throw you off from all the other parts of life. So, I'd say the biggest thing that I learned first and foremost was gratitude. I remember, back in the day, we don't do it anymore, but there was a book that we started the program out with. I think it was called Magic,
Yeah.
and one of the first lessons was to pick up a gratitude rock and to, each night kind of touch that rock just as a reminder to think of a few things that you're grateful for. That rock from 3 years ago, whatever it was, is still in my nightstand, and I still think of that every night.
I
Um,
remember that. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember that from the book. I did that too. I should find a new rock and do that again. I actually like that a lot. It sounds woo-woo, but hear me out. It's like a mind muscle connection type deal, right? Where it's like, hey, you touch it or you see it, instantly think about what it is that you're grateful for. It's like a reminder, you know?
yeah, exactly. It was just kind of a tool to remember to do that, before shutting your eyes at night. And so, and then from there developed, journaling and, writing down 10 things that I'm grateful for, every morning. So I think that's a really key way to start the day on the right foot. Really kind of key your mind towards positivity. Um, and then from there, I was probably where I started moving into meditation, which has become something that I truly, value as part of my day. Try and hit some meditation time every day if I can. I'm not going to say there's never a day where the schedule doesn't allow it, but almost, 90% of the time, I do at least a little bit of meditation every day and all different kinds because there's so many different types out there. And, they're useful in different ways depending on what you're going through. Recently, showed me a little bit about transcendental meditation. So I've been experimenting with that a bit, which is, I really like that because it's sort of, sometimes I like to do a guided meditation that, is walking you through something specific. And sometimes I like to just listen to some beats and do my own meditation. And the transcendental is almost like a combination of the two. It starts off with a little bit of guided kind of preparation and then kind of leaves you to wander from there. So, but more importantly, whatever kind you do, it's just what it does for you, which is centers you, brings you to the present, helps just unclutter all that space up there, and gives you some time that is set aside as you time, right? This is time for you to clear your mind, to not be thinking of the future, the past, all those things that get you bogged down, just to kind of clear out the junk, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
then affirmations from there too, right? Positive self-talk. You'd be surprised how, powerful it is to be telling yourself positive things. And visualization, absolutely, key. If you have goals in mind, and everyone should have goals, I'm not just talking about fitness and abs. I'm talking about career, life, emotional, whatever those goals are. If you spend some time envisioning them, envisioning yourself in that space that you're trying to get, what does that day look like? What does it feel like? It just really helps track you on the path towards that thing happening. I truly believe that.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And the last time we did a recording was with Jeremy going over addictions and breaking bad habits. So it's like we're tying in now the mindset to maybe help out with somebody make that, belief system to help them kind of break through those bad habits. Does anybody else have any tips? Like, let's make today a very fun, engaging conversation where getting as many people involved. What are some ways, Ryan? I'm looking at you right now because one, it's been a hot minute since I've seen you on the Zoom chat, and two, me and you always talk about the mindset, and we dove into that a lot when we had our strategy call and you got signed up. What are some ways that I guess you've been developing your mindset since starting, and then you can kind of talk to everybody that's maybe doesn't know about your story, how now you don't have diabetes anymore, and how much you're learning and gaining all this knowledge.
Um, a couple of things that come to mind. One is removing yourself from the environment
Hmm.
and self-reflection. I often like to speak outside my thoughts and remove myself from what I'm thinking and remove emotion from whatever it is that I'm thinking about. And then further analyze it. Well, why am I thinking this way? Well, because of this, and just question everything. Um, I also like to do breathing techniques to calm myself down. Um, if I'm really heated, if something's bothering me, I like to um, recharge my dopamine through practices through cold therapy or hot therapy. That's something that I've been looking into recently, and I've always wrote journals. I find that extremely helpful. Um, but those are the practices that I do as far as how I can help myself.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And Gabe, mindset Gabe, right? They just joined in. We're
What's
recording
up?
this right now, man. So this is on Facebook and also on probably gonna be on the groups later. Talking all
Uh-huh.
about mindset. And we're talking
Okay.
about pretty much like, going off that episode that, Coach Jeremy and I did about like breaking through with bad habits and self-limiting beliefs and breaking free of addictions. Now it's all about like, okay, hey, so what are the habits, I guess, with your mindset, right? The mindset principles that you kind of developed through your Heartletics journey that's maybe also helped you through, a storm or a challenge. Maybe it was at work, maybe it was at home, maybe it was in your own health and fitness journey, anything like that.
Yeah, I think a couple of things right off the top as you were talking about is what are you taking in, right? When on your daily day, right? What are you listening to? What are you watching, right? What are you doing on your downtime? When you're driving, what are you listening to? That's gonna have a huge impact not only on your mindset, but in your subconscious mind. So what you take in subconsciously, you're going to be looking for those things. And I'll give you a great example. I was having a hard time. I was down, just life beating you up, and you kind of lost the wind out of your sails. And my wife goes, "Why don't you put some comedy on?" And I'm like, "Comedy?" I'm like, not even in the mood to listen to comedy right now. Like, I'm so pissed. I'm so frustrated. And then like about halfway through the day, I said, you know what? I'll take her advice. And I put on no comedy. It's really vulgar, but it's freaking hilarious. I don't know if you guys know Cat Williams, but I mean he's pretty vulgar,
Yeah.
but he's funny, man. And I was cracking up for that ride on my last call that day. And it totally changed my attitude.
Yeah.
Totally changed my attitude. I came in, I walked up to the door with a smile. I greeted a customer. I wanted to, I wasn't on a rush to get in and get out. I turned the, $300 ticket to like $2,500 ticket because I spent time, right? That wouldn't happen if I was in a bad mood or I didn't want to serve that customer.
Yeah.
So what you take in on a daily absolutely makes a huge impact, not only in how you feel and what your perspective is, but where your subconscious sits.
Mm.
So, like Coach Joe daily, if not daily, puts out like mindset, motivational, how to level up in life, how to deal with issues and problems, how to how to deal with the challenge of with your physical, emotional, spiritual. So if you don't know where to go, Coach Joe's got a ton of stuff. Like you just have to just click on his face, his pretty little face that's like right there. And you'll get so much resources that he's got on. And just, if you don't know where to go, just listen to his mindset stuff. And I'll guarantee you, you're going to have a different feeling, right? I know feelings can be wishy-washy, but it matters, right? Because if you feel good, you do good. So
Yeah.
uh, careful what you take in. So maybe shut off the news, right? Shut off the social media for a little bit, and maybe fill yourself with something better than just that garbage.
I love that, man. I love that. And here in a little bit, when we get done recording this, I'm gonna send you guys over the midweek motivational video. Gabe, that's gonna be a good one, man. I talk about the mindset that got me through a 10-mile race.
Whew.
Sucked bad.
Ah,
You get it. You mentioned about the things that you take in. You get a lot of negative thoughts running a race and not giving up and making a promise to yourself. Like it sucked, man. It was hard, really, really hard. So you guys are in for a treat with that one.
That's
I'll
what I
send that
call
over.
type 2 fun. It sucks when you're doing it, but when you're looking at it afterwards, it's amazing.
Yeah, honestly, and yeah, you guys are in for a treat because I literally came here, hit record, and that's like off that runner's high too. So it's just like everything was fresh. So yeah, you guys are in for a good one. Um, Tom, I want to go to you though, also, because obviously before hitting the record button, we were kind of talking about the business. And what are some ways that I guess you've been kind of because you seem very calm when you kind of told me about the challenges and everything like that. And you said, hey, just gotta have trust, just gotta have faith. I guess what kind of helps you in that sense with like your mindset when life does throw you those, adversity?
Well, we always say here, the curveballs in life, and I say I can handle the curveballs. It's the sliders and fastballs that get you sometimes. And I just had that on Monday. One guy had a broken hand. Another guy that I had hired says I can't work until Wednesday, and so this week looks to be kind of a disaster in terms of getting work done. But the first thing is, first of all, I'm very thankful for this group and the mindset training, and reinforcing some things that I already knew, but going deeper than that as well. So instead of falling apart and hanging my head and all that kind of stuff, it's like the first thing is, and as many of you know, I'm evangelical Christian, so I God gave me this business, okay, and it took a year to get it. So if he put me here, he didn't put me here to fail. So I just totally rely on his presence and all that, and this kind of stuff just actually drives me deeper into reading more scripture, looking at positive mindset stuff. Like there's this one group called Power Positivity. It's on Instagram. Trust God, bro. There's a whole bunch of them that I look at, and they're always coming up with stuff. It's like, don't give up. Success is just around the corner. Your answer is just around the corner, and so on. So that gives me definitely relief and confidence. The other thing is the meditation. Besides meditating on scripture, I found some meditation type music that's free, and so it was like yesterday. I went home and I just laid down on the bed, turned that on, and just closed my eyes, and basically got into a nice deep refreshment physically. And so those are the things that I've been doing and have done. And I think that anybody that's going through whatever it is, to definitely take hold of the tools that we have. And so that's what I did.
I love that, man. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Rick, let's go to you next, brother. I know that you mentioned a few times about your mindset's been kind of, shifting in the right, more positive direction. How's that transformation been from like, I guess, the start of your journey to like right now? Like what type of, techniques or strategies, anything like that, that kind of helps you out with your mindset when life throws you storms?
Well, I'm just pretty much I work off of better off of scheduling things, like just keeping things in order for the most part. if things get scattered around on me, then that's when I start going a little crazy there. But as far as the mindset, I mean, it's I'd say it's way better. It's coming along. I still got a lot to I still got a lot to work on, but for the most part, it seems to be pretty good.
Good.
You know, my sleep though, I gotta work on getting more sleep. That's hard.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, that's what this is about, right? Keys for like recovery, right? And so I mentioned it's not just the physical, right? Also the mental. So we've been diving a little bit, right, in terms of like the mindset into the mental. Let's go back to the physical though. So you mentioned about like the sleep, because I'm sure there's probably some other guys that struggle with their sleep. How many hours are you getting right now?
About 5.5.
Okay.
5.5, maybe 6.
Walk me through the schedule, the routine. Like what time do you wake up? What's your like routine like? And then go to work. What time do you get home? What time do you go to sleep? Walk me through that.
Well, I get up about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm out the door by 5. I start work at 6, and then I get off work at 2:30. I'm home by about 20 after 3, and then I get my stuff together, go to the gym, get my workouts in, and then come home, eat dinner, take a shower, and then try to get my daughter in bed and stuff like that, and then I get ready for bed.
What time is that?
Usually it's around maybe around 10. I get to lay down, or a little later sometimes.
And then you said you're waking up at 3:30
I wake up a little bit before 4.
before 4. Okay. So what are you doing in terms of like that hour before hitting the road? Is it just like are you doing anything, or is it just normal routine like breakfast, brush teeth?
Um, you mean the hour before work? Yeah, I get my lunch together, brush my teeth, and then I sit and eat my breakfast, and then out the door I go.
Okay. Cause yeah, I was thinking, cause it sounds like you got everything kind of like at a set routine almost. I was thinking almost like shaving off some points there. If maybe you had something that you can just eat on the road with you. So maybe if it's like a pre-made shake or something like that, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like
Yeah.
instead of sitting down there, now it's like, hey, we're still getting in the same macros, we're still eating, but we're just doing that on a commute. That might shave us at least, 15, 20 minutes, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would help.
Who do you, when you get to sleep, do you have any trouble staying asleep?
I do wake up every now and again. For the most part, I stay asleep pretty good.
Okay. Hold on. Dennis just said pack your lunch the night before. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a real good tip. Gabe said pack your bag for your gym bag. Yeah. Who else has some tips for Rick? How to either improve like maybe an adjustment in his schedule, obviously if that's sustainable, or just ways to kind of have improvement. Coach Brian.
So my suggestion is, if at all possible, I don't, what days do you have off? Do you have weekends off?
I do.
Okay, is there a way that like you could meal prep that, I know meal prepping isn't the funnest for everyone. Is there a way that you could meal prep your week ahead of time so that way you're just grabbing and going all week instead of having to like actually prepare everything?
Yeah. I've been actually trying to get better at meal prepping on the weekends, like because my wife is doing the things with me too, and so we just need to get better at doing the meal prepping and things like that. And I'm really excited about that. The meal preps. I mean, it does save a lot of time. It's a lifesaver. I just gotta get better at doing it.
It's hard, man. It's hard. I get it.
That's a really good recommendation though that Brian said, Rick. Gabe, I'm gonna go to you 1 second. Rick, another thing that I want you to keep in mind, and I think this is good for everybody that's watching this, whether it's on Facebook, you guys, or the podcast later, is keep in mind like weekly averages. So it's like if let's say Monday through Friday, like, hey, you can't make any adjustments, like that's how it is with your routine, that's how it is with your schedule, then maybe make up for it on the weekends when you're not at work. So maybe it's like, hey, add in some extra, few hours of sleep, maybe a cat nap here and there. Like think in terms of like weekly averages. Cause I know for a fact, like with me, it's all over the place. I'm not consistent with it either. And that's one of like my biggest struggles is the sleep. But don't be too hard on yourself if it's like, man, I can't make any adjustments with my schedule,
You're right.
Gabe, what were you gonna say, brother?
Real quick, Rich, I totally understand. Time is like always running against us. So I'll tell you what I do that helps me. My next day starts the night before, right? So okay, so I didn't meal prep the weekend. So what I do is when I make my dinner and my lunch, right? So that everything's weighed out, everything's set, right? So my wife, sometimes I drive her crazy, and I've been telling her to make extra rice because I'm going to take 2 batches, okay? So that night I make while my dinner is sitting in the microwave heating up, right? I made my lunch and I put it in the refrigerator. Now it's done. Now I got my lunch, got my dinner. It's done. Taking a shower, right? I want to actually before I go take a shower, right? I go upstairs. I have my gym bag. I put my gym clothes and my work clothes already set, ready to go, right? So my gym clothes is in my gym bag with my shoes and my socks and stuff. So that way, that morning when I leave in the morning, right? I just grab my bags. I put my lunch is already made. I just put it in my lunch bag, put my snacks that I have in it, and I'm out the door. So that way, that's kind of how I run. So I kind of start the night before. And then second of all, you need to pick like a fast food place that's friendly to how you eat, right? So for example, mine's Chipotle, right? So I'm got sick and tired of eating a whole bunch of stuff, and Chipotle is pretty macro friendly. They got on the app there, the Chipotle steak or the Chipotle chicken rice bowls are pretty good. They're pretty good, nice macros. So I know if I like didn't make lunch, that all I have to do is grab Chipotle for lunch and I'm good on my macros. So like pick 1 or 2 fast food places in case you don't get your lunch in or you didn't want to eat the same thing. It helps.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
like that tip. That's called sustainability right there, Gabe, right? You have your habits in place, you know? So I got a question for everybody now, because this is going to be another form of recovery. Chris, you mentioned to me a while back about emotional eating, and then we did the podcast about the addictions, and then there's another member actually on the app that is actually struggling with the emotional eating as well. So I figured what would be cool is like that's another form of recovery that some people struggle with, and it could be hard at times to kind of get over that. Does anybody, I don't want to get as many people on here talking because I think this is going to be a fun topic to just get engaged about. Who here has some tips, or I should say, who here wants to go first when it comes to what are some ways to help you guys out when it comes to those cravings or, the urges of emotional or binge eating? Any tips? Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say two things. One is, one of the things that always helped me when I had, the craving, the urge was just to look back at success, progress, what I was trying to achieve, right? And that kind of helped me to, be able to turn away from the temptation. But the other thing is, I remember hearing once, it might have been from you, Coach Joe, it might have been from someone else, right? If you really, really, really need that, item, right? A little taste of it is going to be the same as a giant taste of it. The taste doesn't change. So sometimes just having that little bit of it is a way to kind of, satisfy the craving without going crazy and eating, tons of it. Every now and then your body just kind of says like, yeah, I do need a little something, to satisfy that emotional urge, but it doesn't have to be in mass quantities.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. In fact, isn't there a thing out there where it's like if you eat, wait 20 minutes, and then it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, where it's like if you eat, you wait 20 minutes, and then if you're still hungry, then kind of continue on. it's almost like the same thing, whether it's like the sweets, the cakes, sushi, pizza, whatever the case may be. It's like, hey, have a little bit, have it in moderation, you know? And then it's just like, wait, right? Because maybe who knows, those emotions or those urges is, out the door, you got your little fix, you got the little taste buds going. Another thing too is I think plan for it, you know? So
Yes.
we kind of talked with Rick about in terms of like that management and like meal prepping and planning ahead. Well, it's like, what if we plan like if mentally we're thinking of this as like cheating on the diet or whatever the case may be, where you feel an emotional outward afterwards, right? Meaning like you might feel guilty about it the next day. What if we actually just plan for it and try to get it in there? Whereas one day because we just talked about weekly averages. So hear me out, where it's like one day you're crushing on the protein, way over on your goal, maybe a little bit under on your calories. We're saving all that. So maybe it's one day out of the week. Hey, we're a little bit lower on the protein, a little bit higher on the carbs, a little bit higher on fats, but then it's like you're still fitting in your favorite foods, right? We're doing the whole food Tetris that way. Coach Mark always talks about. Who here? David, you got some tips, brother? I got to unmute you.
I do.
Here.
Eat before you go to the grocery store.
Yeah, that's a
If
good one.
you're going, there's a simple habit to this. If you have the healthy food next to you, if you're going to go emotionally eat the good stuff that's going to be good for your system.
Yeah.
So you're not always craving something bad.
Yeah. Good tips, man. Good tips. Who else has some tips?
I'm along
Brendan.
with David too.
Hold on. Gabe, was that you?
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, Dave, that's why I Instacart, so I don't buy more than I need.
That's smart. Yeah. Brendan, I saw your hand was up, brother.
Yeah, so I did this last night. I got home and usually I don't get out of the office here till about 5:30 or 6. And because of the diet, what I'm on, I'm usually the one cooking the meal. So when I get home, I'm just starving. And I'm grabbing little crackers, whatever I can grab. And I'd already kind of planned on having a serving of Halo Top ice cream for dessert. So I said, you know what? I don't have this pork chop ready or whatever it is. I'm just gonna eat the Halo Top right now. And that curved everything. And then basically dinner was dessert and just kind of swapped it. And that was quick and easy. And took my mind off of that where, I was grabbing wheat thins or whatever the heck I could grab, waiting for the meal to come around.
Yeah, I like that. That's what it's like. You make those small little tweaks, small little adjustments, that kind of help you out. So then let's go on to this as continue on with the topic. What are some keys that you guys found that makes it easier and sustainable to kind of fit in those favorite foods? Does anybody have any recommendations or Brian?
Protein sparing works really well for me. I pretty much do
Talk
that
about that. Talk about that for
Yeah.
those that don't know it.
So protein sparing is early in your day. You're going to eat mostly protein. You want to avoid as many. I'm not saying you need to avoid like eating carbs and fats, but you want to keep those to a minimum so you save as many calories as possible for the end of the night. And I do that pretty much every night because dinner's always, especially with baseball ramping up, you never know if we're going to end up eating out or whatever. And so I like to allow myself this bank account of extra calories where it's not 100 grams of protein, because then it's like you're not going to find that in a restaurant unless you order nothing but chicken. So generally, if you eat out, it's going to be mostly fats and carbs. So save your fats and carbs for that one meal that that is probably going to be bad, and then you're not going to ever get too crazy away from your macros, and that works really well for me.
I love that. And Tim, did you just hear that? Brian specifically said, "Hey, the schedule gets busy due to baseball."
Oh
because his
yeah,
kids are
I
playing
experienced it
baseball.
last night. What I've been doing, or it's just started, is on those nights I will get a pre-made meal from Costco, but try to get one of the healthier versions. Like last night we had the stuffed peppers.
Mhm.
And there's a couple other ones too, but I'm planning ahead definitely helps. So you look at you know what calories you're going to have. I was telling Mark in my meeting, and this is to Rick, this might help you too with time. And I apologize if somebody touched on this already. What saves me a lot of time is I'm used to eating the same thing on a lot of meals. For breakfast, I make, and I think it was Gabe that said, I take my lunches are left over from the night before's dinner. There's two meal, basically in a nutshell, what I'm doing is when I'm making my menu out for the week, I only really have to figure out what I'm going to be eating for dinner, because lunch is taken care of and I'm eating the same thing for breakfast. I can do that. I might tweak it a little bit, but that helps me a lot. Getting back to how do you curb the hunger pangs, what I heard and what helps is drink water first. A lot of times, 90% of the time, you're just thirsty or dehydrated. That I'm not thirsty, but dehydrated, and that will help cure it. You over time, I have found you can tell when it's real hunger and when it's dehydration, because it's just, I don't know, it's just a different feeling in the stomach. It's just like you can feel your tiger's, and he's hungry. He's ready. He wants to eat. It's not just dehydration. As far as sweets, Mark is right. I've heard this and I've tried this too. Instead of eating, just for a bad example, chocolate bar, or I used to sit there and eat we get a big bag of chocolate chips or whatever, and I just sit there and munch them. You take a little piece of chocolate, just a little bar, and just eat that, and it cures the sweet tooth. It does not take much. It doesn't take a full candy bar. So that will help with the sweet tooth and cut calories as well.
Yeah. Also,
The other thing is,
I was just gonna say with you guys on the app too, look for a substitute for if it's like ice cream or anything like that, like a cookie. Look on the discovery tab, see if you guys can find anything in there. I mean, I try my best to post things here and there. I'm not the best at it like Katrina is, but I'm working on it. Mark, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say the other thing is if it's like something where you really want the actual thing, not the alternative, right? Reverse engineer it. Start
Yeah.
your day by plugging that item into the app, right? And then plan backwards from there. Even though you may not be eating that till dessert later, now you can plan backwards to make sure that you're still, keeping to your macros, while, you've already plotted for that dessert item or snack item or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, good tips. And to even go off of that too, right? Like, let's say they do go off the rails, still track that. Like
Oh
how
yeah.
often do we always say that? Like, you could be, 4 cheesecake factory cheesecakes deep, right? And you're like 8,000 calories in, still track that. Just still track it. Because who knows? Maybe mentally you're like, all right, something's gonna stop. I'm gonna stop at 7,000 on this day. Something, but still plan for it, because even if we had to go off weekly averages, somebody could fast the whole next day if they wanted to. I don't recommend doing that, but they could technically, and it could be a wash, kind of mixing things up. Who else has some tips though when it comes to kind of fitting in your favorite foods or doing something that's just sustainable for you guys?
I think it's
Anybody?
grace. Just give yourself grace and know that this
Oh,
is a
please
marathon.
talk. Yeah, please talk about that more.
Yeah. So this is not a 50-yard dash, guys. This is a way of changing your life so that it's sustainable for the long run. So I'm 43, I think. Like I plan on doing this for, the remainder of my life. Like I don't plan on stopping. So if, and know your boundaries, right? So if I've been pretty on my game for the past week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however long it's been, and let's say, for example, I was fiending for a cheeseburger, man. Holy crap. I wanted a cheeseburger so bad. So I said, I've been doing well, like for my tracking. I haven't missed a day. Everything's up to par. And I did exactly like coach just mentioned, Coach Brian. He's like, I protein spar in the morning, get all as much protein as I can. And then that night for dinner, I went out and I had some cheeseburger and fries with ketchup and freaking all the beautiful things. And that I go over? I did. But what difference does it make? Because one day is not going to make me fat, right?
Yeah.
And I also, before I even go out to that dinner, before I even, made that decision, the decision first came is that I'm going to give myself some grace. It's okay to have my cheeseburger and my French fries like I want. It's okay to have my dessert. As a matter of fact, I'm working for it right now so that I can have it then. So it's a little bit of delayed gratification involved with the grace, right? And knowing that after I have that meal or after I have that binge that I want to have, the next day, I'm going to go right back to what I'm always doing. So if you know the next day you're going to go right back to what you're doing, you're not going to feel guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely agree and love with everything that you just said. I think that's where people drop the ball the most, honestly, is they forget to give themselves grace, and also they forget to just get right back on track. That's going to help them out in the long run.